Hi, everyone, and welcome to our special Made for YouTube series where we talk about the best investment practices, particularly from the mutual fund industry. And today we're going to be talking about multi asset funds. Joining me is Ashwin Patni, who's the head of products and alternatives at Axis AMC. Ashwin, hi, thanks very much for joining in. So let's start off with the very basic. What is a multi asset fund and what does it bring to the table?
Hi, Asmira. So basically, to understand multi-asset funds better, let's take a step back and look at essentially what are known as asset classes. These are basically different types of investment options for people to allocate their money to. And there are sort of four broad mainstream, asset classes that most of us in India are familiar with: equity, fixed income or debt, gold, and real estate. So essentially, a lot of investments, as people would have heard, is all about deciding how to allocate money to the big asset classes, and making a plan for the long term. So how ideally the way for most investors it should work is look at these big four asset classes, decide how you want to allocate your money, and do that. Historically, equity and debt, there have been lots of options in financial markets through mutual funds, through other avenues to be able to allocate. Gold and property was, of course, something that was more self-managed by people, direct investments, etc. Of late, in the last few years, the mutual fund industry has come up with a solution for gold. There are other solutions also, as people may have seen. And this has allowed us to create what are called, and coming to now the question that you asked about multi-asset funds. Essentially, what these funds do is they combine three of these big asset classes, equity, debt, and gold, into a common investment product for investors. And therefore you can see the benefit that they bring to the table, which is basically allowing investors to access three big asset class in a one simple, easy to understand product.
Okay, so does it offer significantly more advantages than investing in the asset classes separately?
So you'll have to think of it in two broad manners. One is think of it in a convenience hat. There is obviously a lot of convenience for people because if you were trying to invest in the asset classes individually, then you would have to spend that much time and effort to identify the products there, make allocations, track these individual funds, etc. And if you the same thing can be achieved using a single product, then it keeps things very, very convenient for investors. And that's the most important benefit, according to me, the convenience. But also there are other benefits because when you invest through a single route, then important things like rebalancing, etc., get taken care of by the fund manager. Let me explain rebalancing. What happens is that these different asset classes, let's take the three: equity, debt, and gold, they perform and give different returns at different times. So there could be a chance, as we may have seen in the last few years, where one of them does really well. Let's take equity as an example. Equity, you start with a certain allocation. Equity does really well, and what that will do is the allocation will get lopsided. And therefore, what is called rebalancing, which is getting the allocation back to what your desired target is, needs to be done. When the investors are investing directly on their own between these three asset classes, then this rebalancing has to be done by the investors themselves. When it is done through some products like this, it is done inside the product, and therefore the investors are not really bothered. It saves a lot of time and convenience for them, and not just convenience, it's also a genuine economic benefit because rebalancing can give rise to transaction costs as well as taxation, which when it's done inside the fund saves a lot of those as well.
Okay, so each of these asset classes carries different risk and therefore different expectations of return. So how does an investor marry the risk and return here?
So I think the let me explain this through a very simple analogy, and take the example of a pizza. Now we all like, a lot of us like pizza, but a lot of us like pizza with different toppings, and the same topping may not work for everyone. Investing is like that. Different investors may have different needs and different requirements on asset allocation, and therefore one of the important things to understand about multi-asset products is that it is not at all the case that the allocation that we have in these funds between equity, debt, and gold is the one desirable allocation for all investors. No, no, not at all. What we want to what we want these products to get used as is as a good base. And again, going back to the pizza analogy, think of it as pizza base, which creates a starting point, and then you have toppings on top which you can do to sort of create your own pizza. And investors can do pretty much the same thing with this as well, where they look at the multi-asset fund as a starting point, and they add, if they want to dial up the risk, if they want to have more growth expectations, then they add a more, say, let's say, equity on top. If they want to dial down the risk, if they want to have a little bit more stability in the portfolio, they can maybe add debt, depending on their context. But what this does is it gives them a really good starting point. With it, they can then complement that with other funds to create the overall basket that they're.
So, multi-asset fund by definition could use more than just these three assets, right? And yet, I mean, most schemes have only equity, debt, and gold, but the option exists to add more assets.
Definitely. So let me add two more examples, which hopefully people should see going forward. One is international equities. Historically, that's not been a big part of these products, but that is something that these funds can do as well. And more importantly, I think when you look at real assets, obviously gold is a very important part, but there are other commodities which can also be allocated to. And more recently, in the last few years, SEBI has also allowed fund managers to explore allocating to other commodities as well. So these are changes that people should see happening. We are also beginning to see other asset classes coming to the market, like, as you may have seen, InvITs and REITs are now available in the market as well. So when it comes to asset classes, the pie is broadening. There are more options. But what will not change is the cornerstone or the really large role that these three big boys, if I can call them, play, which is equity, debt, and gold. So they will always be the sort of cornerstone of a multi-asset product, and complemented by maybe some of these other things that we spoke about.
Okay. Now the thing is that equity per se would have because of the kind of volatility it sees, have deliver outsized returns, but it can also have larger drawdowns, right? Gold again dependent on international factors. Debt is more the stabilizer. How do I anchor my return expectations? I mean, I know there is no guarantee of return, but as an investor, you want to sort of have some idea at least about what can be expected from this fund. So how does a person do that? Because now there are three asset classes mixed together.
So I think it's a very important question, and I think it's something that comes at the core of how people decide to use certain products. There's a lot of good quality data available. So all fund houses, including ourselves, come up with a lot of updates in terms of what the different asset classes have done over a period of time, and how, if you combine them, what could be the impact on risk return that investors can see. So without getting into any specific fund here, what we have seen is that if you look back at the long journey, let's say over 10, 15, 20 years, each asset class on its own has delivered pretty strong returns between these three: equity, debt, and gold. And if you look at just the total sort of point-to-point returns that they would have generated, it's pretty powerful. Having said that, your point about risk and the very interesting data that I can share with you is what we call correlation. Now, basically, correlation tells you how the returns between these different asset classes, whether they go together or whether they are operating on separate backgrounds, or whether they are operating a little bit more independent to each other. And a low correlation tells you that perhaps they are not operating in the same direction, same time, but they are operating in a different manner. And the interesting thing is, when you look at equity and debt and you look at equity and gold, the correlation over the last 20 years is very, very low, of the order which is very close to 0%, somewhere in the region of small positive, maybe single digit, less than 10%. So that very, very low correlation, what that does is that when you combine these asset classes, they have the ability to bring down the overall risk profile quite substantially for the investor. Because when one asset class like equity has a drawdown, chances are that the other ones are not having that, so that they can sort of stabilize the overall portfolio a little bit. So I gave a long answer. To summarize what I said, yes, there are tools available, calculators, tools available in different fund houses, including ours, where investors can go and compare how these asset classes have done over time, how the trends are. But the most important thing is that because of the low correlation and the way these asset classes are not correlated, uh, when you combine them over the long term, what we have seen is that the risk adjusted returns get much better. What I mean by that is the impact on risk coming down is far more than any impact on return. So on the whole, the investor gains much more because of lower risk than whatever they may lose out in terms of marginal effect on the returns compared to, say, a pure equity product, for example.
And these are taxed like equity funds?
In most cases, people should see individual funds for each fund house, but most funds in the market do have more than 65% allocation to equities, and that gives them the categorization from a taxation perspective of, as you asked, like equity funds.
Okay, and Ashwin, just one final question. I'm assuming that this process of rebalancing between the asset classes is automated. So, what is the role of the fund manager? And the reason I ask is that when somebody has to select a multi asset fund, do they just look at the pedigree of the AMC because the role of the fund manager is limited? Or do they make the effort to find out, the track record of the individual person managing it?
No, very important question. And I think if you look at multi-asset funds, there are two parts to these funds. One is what is called the asset allocation, and the second is what is called the security selection. So what that will mean is that first you start with 100 rupees and you decide how much of this 100 rupees will go into equity, into debt, into gold. Different funds may do it in a different manner. A very simple comparison I can tell you is that, for example, certain fund houses like ours work on a fixed allocation. So we have a fixed formula that whatever 100 rupees we get, a fixed amount of that will go into equity, a fixed amount of that, it doesn't change from time to time or across the cycle. There are other funds in the market who change that based on their assessment, etc. So that is the first part of the equation. The second part of the equation, then, whatever the allocation has been decided out of that 100 between these three, then you have to allocate into individual stocks or securities. So the equity allocation has to be allocated to the different stocks, debt into the different bonds. Gold is pretty straightforward because it goes into the gold ETF. And that's where the role of the fund manager becomes quite important. Typically, these funds tend to have two fund managers, one responsible for the equity part of the book, one responsible for the debt part of the book. As I said, gold typically goes to gold ETF, so there is not much active management there. And typically, therefore, investors should look at the names of the fund managers. They should look at the track record because the even though the allocation itself could be fixed over time, how the fixed allocation is then allocated
Deployed.
to different securities, what stocks you buy, what bonds you buy, that will determine the journey of that product, and that is what the investors need to keep on.
And how do they fare in terms of cost then? Because now you have two fund managers and an ETF.
The costs are actually, because as I'm sure you know, and most people know, that the total costs of any schemes are very tightly regulated by SEBI, and we have to make sure that the costs are within a certain formula, calculated using certain formulas. So essentially, the to cut a long story short, what happens is that the costs are quite comparable to other funds of, let's say, similar size, similar type. It's not that because there are two fund managers, the cost is higher, because ultimately costs of these fund managers, etc., is borne by the asset managers, the companies who are employing these fund managers. To the investor, they only pay a management fee, and that management fee is quite comparable to other products in the market.
All right, Ashwin, thanks very much for joining in and for explaining the multi-asset funds. So guys, I hope you found that useful. If you have any further questions or comments, do feel free to write into us in the comment section below. We look forward to reading all of them. Stay safe. Thanks for watching.